How I manage my thoughts. Sometimes I find myself overrun with unwanted thoughts that can be consuming and or negative. I found that if I were to leave this involuntary thinking to run on its own, it would eventually poison me, making me feel very unhappy and quite frankly, mean. Like many, I struggled with turning off the negative thinking. After feeling quite hopeless, I began looking for a solution toward undoing this negativity in me. Here is how I began. At first, I needed to learn that I can step back and find space between me and my mind. On the surface, this may sound ludicrous, but it really works, allowing me to have a larger perspective than what is taking place within my mind. By stepping back, I'm simply becoming aware, focusing my attention on being aware and observing and not thinking. This creates a slight separation between me and the thoughts and feelings that pop inside my brain. I simply put my attention on something else other than my mind by observing it. And I'm still aware of any thoughts moving through my head, but now I'm just the observer of the thoughts while doing this. The more I practiced, the better I became at it. This allowed me to become more aware of my brain's thoughts and not get caught up in them so easily. If the thoughts are not troublesome, I may simply let them go and not give them any attention. At other times, though, my thoughts are negative, causing me to feel anxious and frustrated. It can be very challenging to not get led away by my thinking when the latter happens. That is when I observe the mind and become aware of when a thought stream appears and what the narrative is. I pay attention for signals. Is my mind bringing forth things that cause me to feel unrelaxed in my body? Am I becoming aware of undesirable emotions arising within me? If so, these are signs I need to observe and manage my thought stream. Being aware of what my mind is doing allows me to get ahead of feeling worried and pessimistic. And it can also afford me some time to process why I'm feeling a certain way in order to work my way out of it and possibly remove myself from a challenging situation. Sometimes I'm able to simply put up a temporary roadblock, meaning I recognize the negativity and choose not to allow unwanted thought patterns to dominate my mind at that time. This can prevent my mind from continuing down an undesirable path toward anxiety or depression. But this doesn't always work if the thoughts and feelings are super strong. I may need more time to process the source of these thoughts. So then I try to change the negative stream of involuntary thoughts in my mind to positive thoughts. On my worst days, my head can become a roaring river of all sorts of involuntary thoughts throughout the day. I don't need or desire excessive thinking in my head. Mental activity can be exhausting. So when I'm drowning, dominated by thoughts that I do not want to think about, I found it much easier to redirect my thinking to the positive, even though I don't want to think at all. I call this voluntary thinking because I'm aware, choosing what I think about. I'm using my mind as a tool instead of the tool using me. I pull back from thought throughout the day. Learning to practice this so that it becomes habitual was a lifesaver for me. In the beginning, I set up phone alerts on my calendar to remind me to stop whatever I was doing and take a slow and deep inhale, then relax all of my body while focusing all of my attention on a slow and extended exhale. It was an easy way for me to get out of my head and discharge any anxiety that had built up within my brain and body. I began doing this only several times a day, but now the frequency I pull back from thought by taking time to breathe while observing the breath has greatly increased over time. It has become habit, a regular part of my daily life. Still, I'm not perfect. There are times when I'm drawn back into thinking too much, which means I have forgotten to find space to observe what is happening in my head. But when I become aware of this, I slow or stop thought by pausing, breathing deeply, and observing the breath. If I discover I'm dominated by thinking on a particular day, a physical distraction can help. I do something and put full concentration upon the doing, not thinking. I try to be deliberate. Whenever possible, I like to focus on one task at a time. This takes practice too. By putting my attention on what I'm doing, oftentimes thoughts will abate because I'm not thinking about the past or future. I'm being right where I am now and with what I'm doing. And at the very least, when thoughts arise while I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, my thoughts tend to be more voluntary and helpful with the task. Still, when thoughts arise, I will try and refocus my attention back onto the task and away from mental activity. I have found that with practice, I'm learning to manage my mind. The more I practice, the better at it I become. This has allowed me to discover my place of peace, an inner sanctuary apart from the torture of unwanted thoughts in my head, what I deem mental suffering. The results came slow at first, but the relief has grown greater for me over time. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and watch my other videos as I will continue to share more of my experiences and practices.